Hey guys, welcome to episode 1, Knowing the Basics. What really is wine? It's just the result of a very simple chemical reaction between the natural sugars in our grapes and yeast via the process of fermentation. Lucky for us, the dynamic characteristics of grapes combined with all the different methods of fermentation that winemakers use allow us to have so many different types and styles of wines. So let's talk about the grapes real quick. Typically, grapes are referred to as either white or red, and this categorization has a lot to do with the skins of the grapes. White grapes are your greenish, yellow-skinned fruit, and red grapes are those deep red purple fruit. And the juice from both types of grapes are clear. The difference in wine color has a lot to do with interaction of the juice and the skins of the fruit. When the red skins of our grapes are left to sit and ferment with the juice, the pigment from the skins actually seeps into that juice, and voila, we have red wine. Not only does the skins of red grapes impart color, but they also impart tannins. Tannins provide that structure to our red wines, but they also impart that kind of rough or harsh mouthfeel that we get sometimes. And this tends to make your mouth feel very dry and leave this astringent or puckery sensation behind. The younger the red wine, the harsher the tannins. However, as your reds age, the tannins tend to drop out of the wine and fall to the bottom of your container, and this is like sediment. This makes your wines actually smoother and more mellow with age. Very yummy. Finally, the natural juice of the grape contains acids, and as such, your wines will also be acidic to some extent. The level of acidity will impact taste and will also give you, or precious drinkers, an impression of the wine's texture. High acidity gives you something crisp and clean. Low acidity gives you something smooth and round. Again, all very yummy. What about wine styles? As I mentioned before, the dynamism in the fermentation process combined with all the varying characteristics of the grapes, or prize winemakers are able to experiment and create multiple styles of beautiful wines. From single grape types or single varietal wines to wines that are made by blending either the same varietals from different locations or multiple varietals, winemakers have the luxury of creativity, and we have the pleasure of sipping and savoring. Fun fact for you, blending is a pretty standard and quite common technique applied across all winemaking regions for various reasons really. To the benefit of you, the consumers, winemakers who practice blending apply this technique quite often and quite well actually, as they seek to produce the best possible products every single time. Blending is beautiful, so keep an open mind and try them out as well. Let's just break down some of the popular wine styles we have available. So let's start with our dry white wines. For example, our Chardonnays and our Sauvignon Blancs. These wines are not sweet, not at all. Typically they're acidic and best had young for that fresh, crisp taste that we so crave in Sauv Blancs, and for that yummy, buttery, toasty, oaky taste we can't get enough of in our Chardonnays. Alcohol levels here tend to be around 12 to 14%. Or semi-sweet white wines like our Rieslings and our Gewürztraminer. Here, our beloved winemakers stop the fermentation process before all the sugars in the juice have been converted. This allows the wine to retain a small amount of sugar, resulting in a semi-sweet or an off-dry wine. This is truly very yummy when consumed young and really good for your basic introduction to wine drinking. A good way to really ease yourself into wines. Alcohol levels here are super manageable, around 11 to 12%. Now our blush wines, like our whites, Zinfandels and our rosés, by letting the clear juice from red grapes sit briefly, typically like overnight, with the skins from the fruit, the juice gets that nice, beautiful pink blush color. Dry red wines, those are your Merlots, your Pinot Noirs, your Cabernet Sauvignons. The simple concept to grasp here is skins and juice from the red grapes are left to fully ferment together. This rids the wine of any residual sugars, thus you have a dry wine, and produces a texture explosion in your mouth. From soft to harsh tannins, dry red wines are beautiful, but they can take some getting used to for some wine drinkers. Sparkling wines. These are our bubblies, our champagnes, prosecco's, and our cavas. The fermentation process, apart from producing alcohol, generally also produces carbon dioxide gas. Winemakers of sparkling wines trap the CO2 in the wine, and this CO2 will then be released as those tiny beautiful bubbles in the wine once the bottle is opened and the contents are poured into a glass. Sparkling wines can be white, red, or blush, and can be both dry and sweet, all depending on what the winemaker is aiming for. Champagne is the most popular in this category and is produced only in the Champagne region of France. Other sparkling wine versions do exist in the form of Prosecco from Italy and Cava from Spain, and simply put, sparkling wine from the US and other New World regions. Finally, our sweet wines or dessert wines. This would encompass our Moscatos or Sauternes from France, or ice wine from Austria, and our Recioto della Valpolicella from Italy. These wines contain high levels of sugar. Leaving the fruit on the vines longer results in a longer ripening period. Extra ripening time means a greater buildup and concentration of sugars in the grapes, to the point that the grapes actually dehydrate and become raisins. Some grapes are also attacked by the botrytis mold, and this mold forces greater, rapid dehydration of the grapes and concentrates the sugars into a smaller quantity of the juice. Now, with such concentrated sugar levels in the fruit, even after fermentation, so much sugar remains in the wine. Many times these dessert wines are referred to as late harvest or simply botrytis. So pay attention to your labels as you go exploring. Sauternes from the Bordeaux region of France are a great example of botrytis affected wines. Now, most sweet wines are white. However, there are quite a few sweet red wines available as well. Or fortified wines are last in this category. Port from Portugal or sherry is also very popular in some winemaking regions. And it's a simple process. They add extra alcohol to the wine during or after the original fermentation. So, if the alcohol is added during fermentation, the high alcohol levels stop the fermentation and result in a sweet fortified wine. Example, your ports. If the alcohol is added after fermentation, the resulting wine is usually dry. For example, Fino sherry from Spain. Alcohol levels in this category are anywhere from 17 to 21%. So as you can see, the options are many, and there are so many wine styles to suit every single palate. So start exploring, do some research, and begin to see what suits you and your taste. Let's let the wine begin.